When we talk about social power in the context of this journey, it's the aura, the social capital you need to earn trust, to summon resources, to gain support, and to have meaningful relationships that could have been otherwise impossible, but which are necessary for you to climb the upper chambers of any community you might find yourself. So in the last episode, we spoke about the number one most limiting belief that hinders smart people from growing their social power. If you haven't watched that episode, I'll leave you a link below. So the question now has become, how do you shift perception and create an impression that you deserve your share of social power in the world, whatever that world means within the context of your experience? Now I need to reiterate this point, that the fact that we all have the potential to have access to this very powerful aura, that it's not an automatic process, that there are certain protocols in human and social behavior that we must master and deploy before we can access it. A few people stumble on this process naturally, but most people are not that lucky. So it's that gap of luck that we are trying to bridge with this journey. There are different ways to shift perception, and some of them are quite shallow in their approach. But what I want to do is to show you an enduring process to create an empowering perception every time. I believe if this process is well understood and practiced, that could save you from the mistakes that hinder many people from climbing the societal ladder, or that dethrones powerful men from their kingly stations. This would also create a very powerful foundation on which you could build other perception shifting strategies, which I think we will discuss somewhere down the line on this journey. So let's start with the most powerful but least understood strategy of creating a very powerful aura, which is building an elaborate trait bank. We all know that perception doesn't just happen out of nowhere. It's not conjured out of thin air. It's the result of how people interpret our actions, our behavior, as we interact with our world. And what dictates how we respond to situations are the set of traits that we possess. Okay, say a situation requires courage and you act courageously. You would or could be perceived as courageous. But what if you don't have the courageous trait and you act otherwise? You would be perceived as anything other than courageous. Now, if you have a courageous trait, but you don't use it in a situation that requires it, how would you be perceived? You probably would be perceived as weak, despite the fact that you could be courageous. The traits we have and use, they help us create an impression which becomes the perception others hold of us. When we talk about shifting perception to build up your social power so you could convert your dreams to reality and climb to the upper chambers of the society, it comes down to what trait or attribute are favored in the endeavors of your choosing. For instance, in times of war, a country would need a leader with strong and bold attributes. These are needed to help the citizens to have assurances of their safety. So if the leader needs to retain his popularity and earn trust and all, he must demonstrate this attribute, this trait, and back them up with action. The question then has become, in what direction do you intend your life going, and what are the attributes or the traits that are valued most in this area? I want you to make a list of these attributes. Ask yourself, how many of these attributes you already possess, and where are the deficits? This all comes down to being aware of the world that you live in and its dynamics per time. Perception is not fixed. It's not cast in stone. It's always changing. So you can't be rigid and be limited in the set of traits that you possess. You see, situations sometimes determine which trait is needed, and that's a place of wisdom. This is why spending your life to develop what we call an array of traits, like a trait bank, is necessary. I know there's a school of thought out there that believes that your traits are fixed, but I believe that that's putting a limit on the potentials or capability of people. Because recent research have shown that adults can develop new traits. So, if it is how you respond in instances that create a perception, it then means you can't keep influencing people to think different of you if you keep responding to every situation using the same trait sets that you possess, using the same limited trait set that you have. If you want the world to put away the chains they use to bind you and build you a throne, you yourself, you have to stop acting like a slave and pull out a new set of traits and tell us that you are a king, and that's how to be the master of your fate. You want to increase your awareness. Who do you think you are right now? You cannot improve on a limitation you don't yet know. You cannot enhance an advantage you don't know you already possess. You cannot know what you should be running towards if you don't know what you're running from. What are the ways you express yourself right now that put limit on the quality of social trust you are earning or can earn? How do you express yourself right now, physically, mentally, emotionally, and intellectually, that runs contrary to who you should be perceived to be in a role that you deserve? You want to be a leader in 5-10 years. How are you behaving right now? What set of traits do you possess right now? How are you acting right now? What kind of perception are you creating right now? Array of trait or trait bank are you creating right now? Who do you want to be in 5-10 years? What are the attributes that people want to see in your future person? You want to write them down. You want to develop that trait bank. Remember, your social power is in the hands of others. Your only job is convincing them to hand it over to you. That's all you have to do. Once you do this, they'll be loyal to you. You can't force them. You can only persuade them. And that's the essence of this journey. That's the essence of you peeking into their minds, figuring out how they see you, and figuring out how they would want you or they would love you to be, and then bridge that gap. So, connecting with their idea about you, reassessing it and fitting it to how it empowers you is quite reassuring. Part of increasing your trait bank is understanding your personality. Your personality combination is a unique way of how you communicate with the world. This unique combination is great, but you need to understand that it is also limited, and you need to know when to turn it off and use another set of traits. You see, until you understand the limitations of your personality, you can't transcend them. Who are you? What are the strengths of you? What are the limitations of you? And what other personality has or personality type has a strength that will make up for your deficiency? You cannot build social trust when you talk against social perception. You'd only make it worse. So to consistently build trust, you have to deploy different set of traits under different circumstances as it fits. So what you want to do is to take stock of social assessment. If people say this is how they see you, that's how you are to them. Don't argue against the perception. That's futile. If this projection or perception of theirs or their projection does not further your journey towards expanding your social power, you have to work to create a new perception that furthers it. That's the real argument you have to make. If you have a pattern of complaints about you, instead of saying, oh, people don't understand you, you should take this as a social feedback and try to develop a new trait that counters that, if that would help connect you to your share of social power in their hand. You have to deep listen to know which set of traits to use in a situation. You see, nobody can pull a strategy in the middle of a raging battle when he hasn't already drawn and mastered our strategy. So deep listening to a situation only helps you to either know the set of traits required to develop for future purposes, or those to deploy right now in this situation. So it can either help you prepare or help you deploy. Not listening to situation or people makes you lose the opportunities to either deploy necessary traits or build necessary traits to shift perception and increase your social power whenever necessary. So deep listening to a community that you belong to could help you shift the communal perception. What you want to do is communal perception change. How does the majority of people perceive you? Does it serve your goal? If the answer is no, you want to work on that. One practical way I know to develop necessary awareness, to start consolidating the traits you already possess, and to recognize the opportunities to grow the trait that you need is a creative process that is called Affirmative visualization technique. Here you imagine yourself in situations that require a particular trait that you want to develop. Say for instance, you want to be more confident. You need to create a scenario that puts obstacles in your path. You need to mentally visualize how the situation is very difficult. Feel the emotions of fear and anxiety, and then visualize yourself overcoming the obstacles, and also feel the emotions of happiness that come as a result of winning. And this can also be applied to other trait sets as well. So the truth is, if you are not directly in charge of your mental self-talk, you can quickly slip into what we call negative mental talk. And the danger of negative mental talk is, if it goes unchecked, you tend to believe it, and also it affects your self-presentation and affects your overall experiences, then people start believing it about you too. Who you believe you are changes your interactions with your world. It either connects you to opportunities or disconnects you from opportunities. If you have to change how the world sees you, you have to first change how you see yourself, and it starts from inside your mind. The more you visualize something and confess it, the better you will be able to see opportunities in an environment that aligns with the things that you visualize and confess. There is no mystery to it. The opportunities are always there. Your visualization only helps you to be able to quickly recognize them and take advantage of them. You would have to remember that what is required of you in different instances will be different. You need to build an area of trait capacity for different instances. The people that fail to build power or sustain it are the very rigid ones. Those that have limited trait set, they use one set of traits to reach up the ladder, and when situation demands of them to change the trait set and use other trait set, what happens is that they get stuck in their ways, and that shouldn't be you. Not having enough trait sets to expand your perception when needed constantly diminishes your social power. Deep listening, your environment is always talking to you. Others will only help you expand your social power by giving you the necessary opportunities when their perception of you can either boost their reputation or leave it intact. Hardly would anyone want to help you if they think associating with you would ruin their reputation. So what I want you to do right now is look in the mirror. Ask yourself this question. If who you have become will boost the reputation of the people you are asking to give you opportunity, or at least leave their reputation intact, your goals don't mean anything if you can't answer this simple question. I will see you in the next one, where we discuss why good people are losers.